together, united.
I came to learn about KECTIL program through social media, more particularly through LinkedIn, through the interactions that KECTIL had with youth empowerment in Kenya.
I learned about KECTIL on the internet. A friend of mine sent me a link about today's event.
I learned KECTIL about the event about KECTIL through the online advertisements, and also one of my friends by the name Michael Kishoyan linked me about it, and he briefed me about the KECTIL, and that is why I decided to sign up for today's function.
I came to learn about this event through social media. Somebody posted it on WhatsApp, and then a friend of mine referred it to me, like, to apply for the event, to come to the event. Plus, I think KECTIL has my email, so every time they have an event, I normally get a pop-up in my email to apply. Yeah.
I learned about this event from a very close friend of mine. He just texted me and he told me that we have this event here and it's happening, you should come check it out. He sent me the details, he told me what the event is about, but I went an extra mile of checking what the event is. I went an extra mile of checking what KECTIL is, and here I am today.
I learned about the KECTIL event through our YLF small group, KC University, where we are asked to register so that we can come here to have a conversation about the future of the youth.
Let us keep our dreams alive, 'cause tomorrow's gonna be a better day.
My overall experience was it's beyond what I had expected earlier. I've had a lot of fun. I've learned a lot. I mean, we should be attending more of the events because it's something a youth like me will want to attend and network and learn a lot of things from different people. We are different youth coming from different places. We have different ideas to air. So it's just fun and sharing different ideas with different people. It helps us to grow, and yeah, we can have a very bright future ahead sharing ideas.
Today's event was very interesting, but most importantly, it was impactful and inspiring, precisely because the youth are slowly graduating into a level whereby they're able to engage on serious discussions regarding policy beyond just normal advocacy, asking for opportunities or asking to be heard. They're actually discussing the nitty-gritties, like the actual specifics of what will fix specific problems they undergo. And so that is very encouraging to me, and I look forward to seeing more opportunities like this.
My overall experience during the event, first of all, is the collaboration that was brought forth today. It was shown that we really have a vigor and really have a vision when it comes to making our country work, making our nation work, and putting the youth on the front line of this. So the collaboration and the initiative that was taken today really just is an overview. It paints a brighter picture for the youths, and for me that was spectacular.
My overall experience for today's event, my first approach was that I was going to network with others. I think I've achieved that to a far best than I expected. It was also a learning experience because I was able to acquire new ideologies, different approaches, and all that.
Innovation, improving our intellectual capacity in a view to improve our community. We are the change that we seek tomorrow. It's for me and you, we are the leaders. We are the leaders of tomorrow. Let us rise and stick to our responsibilities while making use of our innate abilities. Together we can do it.
My favorite part of the event was the debate. It was just awesome, and the way we were sharing ideas. It was just great. The opposing and the proposing team, both of the team had very great ideas. But at the end, which made it very difficult for the judges to determine who won and who did not win. But at the end of the day, we were just sharing ideas. We did not come to compete. We just came to learn from each other.
My favorite part of the event was actually the debate. And also the focus group discussions were quite interesting, but the favorite part was debate because I totally believe that for us to have actual policies that speak to the challenges of the communities, the policy makers need to be at a position whereby they not only understand the perspectives they are most inclined to as policy makers, but also the perspectives of the people whom they feel their inputs are a bit divergent from theirs. because consistently we've seen this case scenario whereby when policies, before policies are made, public participation exercises are organized, and we engage, we discuss, but finally when the actual policies are made, most of the people feel like those policies don't speak to their needs and to their actual context. And so having a debate whereby we get to hear the different perspectives, even from youth who don't necessarily believe the motion or are against it, helps us to build that culture whereby we are able to understand issues circumspectively, like we are able to have the full grasp of the situation, to analyze situations objectively, so that by the end of the day, we have policy decisions or policy conclusions that are informed by the entire situation or environmental causes, rather than just always being inclined to positions that either benefit us or are easy for us to understand.
My favorite part of the event, I'm going to be a little biased, my favorite part of the event was the debates. Obviously because everybody is coming together and there's a lot of intensity up there. Everybody has visions, everybody has opinions, perspectives, and to actually reason out this perspective with everybody else, even with the audience, really brought forth a healthy competitiveness, which truly reflects as entrepreneurs or people in business or people with looking for employment or learned folks, the competitiveness that we need even in the global market. So debates, that was really my favorite part today.
My favorite part of the event today is learning about finances, resources, and entrepreneurship, since it's not my forte, like it's not my area of interest. So I got to learn a little bit new vocabularies and new things, and I also got to know different people who I've never met.
My favorite part, that's a bit hard because I think the whole event was a success, but I think the debate session was really my favorite session, because even after the debate ended, the participants were still very much interested to keep on debating and discussing their ideologies and what they think about entrepreneurship, and it as an opportunity for the youth in Kenya.
My favorite part was 1, the debate, then 2, the discussion. 1, the debate was interesting to me because there we could air out our views, what we partake of the current situation, of the employment crisis currently facing us in Kenya. Then the discussion bit, I could get some good ideas from my fellow colleagues, where they talked about pertinent concerns, not only concerning the economy as it is, but what they should do to reform the economy to better us as the youth going forward into the future.
The favorite part of the event today was the discussion part, where we came together, different mindsets, different approach, people with different backgrounds, coming together to define the factors that are affecting us as the youth, and we are now able to provide solutions on the way forward.
The most favorite part of the event today for me is the debating time, when we were exchanging ideas, proposing and opposing from each other, and also the powerful questions which were asked by the audience regarding on how are we going to make the policies or ensure that the government is accountable for what youth needs for employability.
First of all, I think there should be public participation. When they're making these policies, they should involve the young people and ask them what works for them and what does not work for them. Because we understand that at the end of the day, they have to get that money back that they loan us to help somebody else with it. But they have to make it, they have to be there so that we can tell them, this is how you can profit from this. If you give me that loan, this is how you can get it back. Not just sitting there without the inputs of the younger people, and then just coming out with policies that are not friendly to the youth.
Ideally, normally, most times in such positions, we hear talks of using the due processes. And in due process, if you're engaging or if you're creating policies for the youth, it's imperative, it's non-negotiable that the youth are in the table as well, and part of the table to be discussing these policies, because it doesn't make any sense if you're creating policies about the youth and the youth are not represented. And when we say youth, We're meaning youth in all the different sectors. We need women, we need people with disabilities, we need people from different industries, and everybody needs to be represented for the proper policy formulation to work.
I think there's on regards to young people being out, there's a very important aspect called the Utu philosophy. It's about respect, non-discrimination, and embracing your neighbor. So I think as youths, if we can embrace the Utu philosophy, then we are able to speak as a voice, speak on matters affecting us as individuals, but we talk as a group. Then I think it will be more, the policymakers will be more inclined and more to talk to our tune than their tune.
Tomorrow's gonna be a better day.
If I was to recommend a change in the youth employment policy, I would recommend a policy where, for example, when it comes to accessing the grants and the loans, I would recommend the government to lower the requirements for applying and to make the processes less tedious, so that, because sometimes the processes take so long and somebody might get tired before they bring in the loans and the grant. Plus, I would also recommend the government to. I would also recommend for a government to train youth, because you see in our education system, it's majorly theoretical. And I would also recommend. I'll recommend the government to provide practical lessons, so that when we go to the job market, we don't get to experience the skill mismatch.
If I were to recommend a single policy formulation change, right from the government up to down to us, the fiscal policy. The fiscal policy of our country is currently putting us down. We as the youth, we have the ideas, we have the brains, we have the capability, we have the connection, but what we don't have, brother, is the financial capacity to build ourselves, to actually start businesses, to keep those businesses running, to expand those businesses, and to make it worthwhile.
To me, I believe that a lot of the opportunities for youth employment moving forward will have a significant element of the digital infrastructure involved. And so with regards to any policy change I'd recommend that policymakers pay attention to developing youth-centric considerations, or rather integrating youth-centric considerations into their proposals, into the bills, in a manner that gives the youth favorable terms to be able to equip themselves, either with digital knowledge, through innovation hubs, and also with regards to content creation, the imports on certain key equipment that drive the lot of job opportunities in the digital space should also be considered favorably, so the youth are able to participate.
One of the policies that regards to employment that I would suggest to the government, or spearhead for the government to actually improve or to put forward, is the education sector. The education sector, we all know, is part of the grassroots of development that really pushes everybody out there to the market. So if we can include a practical angle or intonation to education that we have, it can reduce the public. It can reduce, first of all, the public and the private discourse. Secondly, it can reduce the skill mismatch, and thirdly, it can bring together the employer and the educator, and in the middle the students. So if we really touch on the grassroots, which is the education from a fledgling stage, we can build up more equipped students. We can build up more equipped workers, employees. And we can build up more entrepreneurs who are able to compete in the global market.
One of the policies that I could have recommended is the employability policy, whereby youths are given the opportunity also to express what they have, to showcase their skills, so that they can be able to be known, to be able to present their ideas either to the government or to the any other body which are supporting the youth. And I think employability policy will be good, and also reducing the restrictions, especially for the financial applications or for the financial requirements, resources. They need to lower those restrictions, like for unsecured loans in KCB, you need to be one of their members for the last 6 months. If they can reduce it, then it will be powerful for the youths to get supported.
Together, united, divided, we fall.
The change that I'm hoping to see in future is being able to the youth at the moment, they are very bright and have ideas and that can innovate a company. So I would address these big companies to employ youth, for them to be very productive and bring the new skills they have to the company to make it more productive.
In regards to government addressing the issues of unemployment, the same way the government says they operate on an all-government approach, they also need to incorporate the all-stakeholder approach in such a way that everybody, including the youth, and most largely the youth, because the youth are the largely affected by unemployment, needs to be involved. Everybody needs to be involved. They also need to give out their grievances, their ideas on how to create employment. Because you see, we also have voluntary employment, where people are not contented with the working areas, the salaries, and all that. So this also need to be increased. So let's take salary increments, conducive working, and lower taxes. So this will also reduce the employment in Kenya.
Stick to our responsibilities while making use of our innate abilities. Together we can empower those with disabilities. Let us keep our dreams alive, 'cause tomorrow's gonna be a better day.
Critical issues for the youth to address in terms of policy. I think we've all said it. There's so much policy in Kenya, but the implementation is the biggest. It's the biggest impediment towards it, the implementation of it. So I think what we are currently doing, or we can see in the Kenyan space, is the continuous calling to the respective institutions, calling for accountability, calling for ethical considerations to be maintained, ensuring that all processes are duly maintained, and ensuring that public knowledge is disseminated on the specific policies as well. So I think what the youth can keep on doing is to keep on calling for accountability, to keep on checking and informing and doing civic engagement about policies that especially are important for the Kenyans to take account, and not even only as the youth, but as a nation. What policies are currently being processed, or what policies are currently being implemented, and are we okay with them? Do we agree with them? So basically, civic engagement towards policies and calling for accountability always with all institutions regarding policy implementation.
The current issue most critical for us as the youthful population: 1 is education, 2 is communication, 3 is information. We don't have these 3. We as the youth should do an extra mile. We should go an extra mile. We have depended on the government for years. Since independence, the government has been doing things for us. It's time we come out clear. It's time we bring our views clear, that we air them in such a manner that the government understands them, that we understand them, that the stakeholders in government and partners of government understand where we come from, understand our views, and it is through this manner, only through this manner, that we get to actually make change. For instance, I'll tell you, the finance policy, the finance bill 2023, 2024, 2025, it has caused mayhem in the country. It has caused violence in the country. But what we, the youth, are saying is the finance bill is oppressing us further than we are oppressed. We want something that works for us, works for the government, works for the nation. So what we are saying is, we want a seat at the table. Bring us together. We have ideas, we have ideologies, and we, the youth, have put documents in place to ensure that our views go to the topmost office in government, such that our priorities are kept at heart and we don't have people talking for us. We talk our own issues by ourselves. We handle our issues by ourselves.
The current state in Kenya that has made me to start a business rather than being employed. It's the way the high rates of the company. Okay, it's very difficult for the company to employ a lot of people at the moment. You can say worldwide or Kenyan-wide, the people who graduate yearly are like, let me say 80,000 students graduating. The company can only accommodate 10% of them. So me starting my own business will be able to accommodate the 90% or the 80% of other people. If everyone decides to start their own business, we'll be able to accommodate one of them. So meaning that if I start my own business, I'll be able to create employment for another person, rather than waiting for or depending on the company to employ me.
Yeah, the debate broadened my mind on some of the issues like the policymakers, like also how do we integrate those policies into the requirements for the youth to be employed within the Kenya, and also how are we going to grow the economy of this country using the entrepreneurial skills that we learn.
Let us keep our dreams alive.
To me, I will not. I would like to isolate the issue in the sense that the mismatch, or rather inability of youth to translate their acquired skills in schools to the actual marketplace, is not entirely the fault of a flawed education system, but rather it's about fostering linkages, practical linkages, in the sense that the education system to a decent level, they leave us useful knowledge, but then we need a system that helps the youth to translate or apply that information in the real marketplace, and hence why we propose more collaboration between entities in the marketplaces, whether they are companies, whether they are industries, with relevant or rather educational institutions and programs that correspond to them. That way we can give the students an exposure in work and learning in a manner that they're able to apply whatever they learn in the actual marketplace.
Media help to bring youthful movement together. Okay, so first of all, recently there was a space. Recently with the finance bill, there have been so many things happening until today. For example, the experts, where people are engaging themselves on what is happening, what the finance bill entails, where it's going to touch, who is going to touch. So I feel like social media has been able to illuminate so many people about what the government does. It has been able, the social media has also able us to know, to background check on our background check fraudulent activities done by the people who are currently occupying the offices. So social media for me has been able to be an eye-opener for information, though when it comes to information, there's also been disinformation and misinformation, which has caused a little bit of an uproar and has caused mayhem. But social media has been good though, because so many people are coming into the express to listen in on the discussion and advocate for good governance.
The ongoing political unrest, one, it has caused disruptions in our economy. Why am I saying disruptions in our economy? We have seen several protests coming at place. Each day, the former president said that each day we lose 2 billion shillings just out there. Now this has happened and it is affecting the system from inside out. We are going to the streets, property are being vandalized, properties are being destroyed, people are being stolen from, people are being hurt. This is not the way, this is not the Kenya that our forefathers envisioned. This is not the Kenya that I envisioned growing up. This is not the Kenya that I want my kid to grow up. I want a Kenya that is fair for all of us. I don't want a Kenya where I have to know someone to get something. I want my own qualifications to put me to places. I want my own will, my own purpose, my own ambitions to drive me, to take me to places. But I also want you guys up there, open these doors for us. Don't close them. Communication from the government should flow down from the ministries, from the parisat, everywhere, from up to down, that we get information on time, at time, and we act on these information. And when it comes to these offices, corruption is taking much. It's taking a lot from us. We are giving in a lot as taxpayers. A lot of our money is going into government revenue, but the government, what is the government doing? The government opts to use our funds to satisfy their luxurities. Go ahead, borrow funds from other people, tell us that this is what we are going to do with the funds that we have borrowed, yet still do nothing. That is not what we want. We totally don't want that. We want our finances to develop us, build us schools, build us hospitals, give us working infrastructure, the roads, make them work, electricity, connect it everywhere, technology, internet. That is what we want. Make internet, especially internet, make it cheaper, make it affordable, make it convenient for everyone and everywhere, regardless of being in urban areas or in rural areas. We have one enemy and we have one goal. Do away with unemployment and develop our country through economic means and economic prosperity.
The political address at the moment, it has made us to have a very different perspective with the government at the moment. We cannot rely on them because it's like we are feeling being oppressed. We don't have work, and they want to tax us. So how can they tax us if they cannot even govern us for us to have a better future, for us to create employment for other people? They should nurture us. For us to be able to for us to be productive to the economy.
My take on it is, I think, and I am certain, that if we keep pushing and pushing, there will be reforms. Though the reforms will not be 100% as you would wish for them to be, because at the end of the day, politics is a dirty game. So there will be reforms. So we should keep pushing, we should not be tired of it. We should keep engaging on social media, going on the street. And if the street doesn't work, we should look for another option, because so many people are getting killed and so many people are being abducted, and they are walking back, taking a step back from demonstrating in the street. So I think they should come up with a new solution to tackle the political unrest in the country.
On the current unrest in the country, I think the fact that we are talking on tangible matters corruption, matters tribalism, matters nepotism, matters accountability, matters unemployment. I think it is a conversation that every youth needs to be involved, and I 100% support it, because it is a conversation that aims at bringing positivity and inclusivity among the youth, other than the divisive youth that we have had with us.
My thoughts about the ongoing protest is that it will be really good for the government to listen to the youth, because at the end of the day, the government, Kenya belongs to the people, and the government has to govern the people. So without the people, who will they govern?
Regarding the ongoing uproar, regarding the ongoing mano and all that, the protest that is going on, I would say one of the things that is making us, invigorated to go all the way out there, I would say one is the disconnect between the government and the citizens. The nation of Kenya is not asking for a lot, it's asking for a listening ear. The government of the people of Kenya are asking for the government to pay attention to the actual needs of the people of Kenya. The thing about the policies that have been implemented or that they're suggesting, they are generic policies that have no connection to the local context. And thereby, the nation of Kenya is feeling left out when it comes to bringing up these policies and actually implementing these policies. So I would feel, my feeling and my conviction is the people of Kenya are invigorated, and we still go to the streets so long as the government, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature acts on its own. Because from the first article of the Constitution, the sovereign power belongs to the people. And for me, that is the disconnect that is bringing up a lot of protests.
The changes I hope to see through this unrest, I have a very beautiful quote that says, "When all seems lost, only hope remains." So it is only hope that we have now, that in the future, all these things you are seeing now, nepotism, corruption, is that when we go on with this inclusive conversation, where we don't disregard anybody in regard to name or where they come from, and also reduce corruption, and also overall the system, because the current system has been working for the other generation. Now it is our time to redraft the system. When we draft the system and we keep the wheel turning towards what we want, then I think the future will be the Kenya we want.
actually what the debate did was to like open my mind on some things, on what I'm supposed to do, and not rely on the companies to like employ me or something. Like I can start my own business. Okay, even if it won't create employment for other people, it will create employment for me, and it will help me like basically with the future.
The key takeaways are that we do not deny there are efforts being made to introduce policies to solve different challenges, but they are not adequately capturing youth perspectives, and primarily not because the youth are entirely closed out of them, but because sometimes just that transmission of ideas from the youth to the implementers is not enough. The youth also need to be part of the teams that actually implement this thing, to be able to address the nuances that come up in the implementation phase that may not be adequately captured in the proposition and policy design phase.
For the young people to access finance, maybe I can actually say it's sometimes become so difficult because we lack information, especially to the marginalized youths, people who are from the marginalized communities. They lack information, they lack the mentorship, so which will enable them to be taught how are we going to access these finances, resources. Like, for example, I can just take an example of Uwezo Fund. Most of the marginalized youths are not aware of what Uwezo Fund is, what are the criteria needed for them to apply for this.
My hopes and expectations, because for employment in Kenya, is that I think one, I always start from the inner side, and I'm always going to say that we don't lose hope. We as the youth who are seeking employment, that we keep hoping and we pray that the government may continue to improve the economic situation in the country, which will therefore in return create employment opportunities, hopefully budding employment opportunities for the youth to be able to get employment. Because it's not only fair that the youth get employment, but it's also important that they are compensated accordingly and respectfully according to the work, the skills and the contributions they are making.
You see, recently, my hopes about the youth of Kenya going into the future is that we have a just society. As much as we want a just society, we have to work for the just society. Recently, I was at a students' leadership gathering, and whatever I had there, my heart cried for future. My heart cried for 10 years to come, because our leaders, the student leaders that are coming up, they are embracing the political nature of the previous regimes, the previous governments, which has proven not to work. We don't want that. What we want is a revolution, but revolution doesn't start just by you or by me. It starts by ideas first. We conceptualize these ideas, we mandate them, we make them better. We ensure that when they come out of us, these ideas, when we finally put them out to the table, they help us. They develop the nation. For instance, with the youth, we are the ones critically faced with the issue of unemployment. Going into the future, we the leaders, we have an obligation. Leadership is service. And unless we want to serve, don't be a leader. Unless you want to serve the people, don't go into any leadership position. Don't vie for any leadership position, because it has to take that burden for you to want genuine change. Go through the hardship, go through the process, ensure that you put every actor together, bring them together, the government, the private sector, the public sector, everything, the institutions, the marketplaces. We form policies that work for us, by us, and with us, so that we move progressively into the future.
My hopes and expectations for the future of the youth in Kenya is that, as you can see, whatever is going on in the country right now, is that the youth are involved in the conversation. Compared to previously, when only the older people were involved in the conversation, now the youth are taking part in shaping the conversation of every aspect, be it political, economical, religious, social aspect in this country. So I think the future is bright. If we stay the course, we'll surely be part of the future.
That they will continue to actively be involved in whatever we are doing. They should not, again, I repeat, be recipients of development, but rather drivers of it. The youth should engage in meaningful, deep, and difficult discussions. We should not go for what is easy. We should not go for the normal platitudes. Let's engage on matters of policy, seek to understand, and then recommend solutions. because to a large degree sometimes whenever the youth disagree with something in the nation, you are told that there is no better alternative. So I would like to see a youth community that is adequately involved in a manner that can actually propose alternatives to whatever youth or other government policy makers might find that it's unhappy. And so I look forward to a youth community that's actively engaged in matters of the nation, in a position whereby we do not just seek opportunities to benefit, but to actually support and lead and drive development efforts.
My hope when it comes to the future employment of the youth, first of all, a lot has been geared towards the resources around us, and it's not about the resources, it's about the resourcefulness. And I believe the youth are truly understanding what things like the digital space, things like having a voice and actually using it. And so what that brings up is the ability for us to understand the rights as employers and the rights as, and the capabilities that we have has been so stretched, and our mindsets have been reformed to a way that we are no longer put in learned helplessness. At this point, we truly understand what we are capable of, how we are able to shape the fundamentals of the government, and consequently how we are able to achieve employment, even if it's not by the government. We are able to think for ourselves. We're able to go back to the drawing board and say, this is where we are going, this is where we are heading to. And like from the previous question, the movements that we have, we're able to channel resources, we're able to channel our time, our energy, our finances towards creating a better future for ourselves. And I believe with every policy that can help us and can aid us and can be properly propagated, we are able to achieve the Vision 2030. And I believe that is very doable.
Expectation was that I would meet people who are like people who are very brighter than me. Of course, I did. Like most of the people I've met here today, they're very bright and they're very eloquent in how they're speaking and whatever they are saying. You know, like I've learned several new terms. Let me say. They've really built my confidence today, having to like participate in your debate. It was just awesome and great.
The government response through the recent activities that has happened, the government is trying to play a game with us. It's like it's giving and taking, but we don't want give and take. And we're also not asking them take, and we're also not telling them give. What you are telling the government is consider your options, consider your priorities, consider how you implement your agendas, focus on things that matter most. For instance, President Shuto was going around saying that we'll build factories across the country. He hasn't done that. He just gave us a promise, and he keeps on giving us promises one after the other, which I think is totally wrong. It is time for the government to ensure that factories are built across the 47 counties of Kenya. Right from Mombasa to the 47th county, we should have factories in here. These factories should employ more than 5,000 youths, specifically youths between the age of 18 and 35. Now, what these youths will do is that once we have the finances in our pockets and enough finances, we'll have the idea and we'll generate more ideas, because what we're tackling currently is we don't have finances. Now, employers in these factories give us work from these factories. From these factories, we get finances as our income. From our income, we focus on other things. We start entrepreneurial activities. We go out, we call for partners, we form circles, we form cooperatives, we form things that actually work for us. That is what we are asking the government. Just don't give us, just don't take from us, just listen to our point and act on our point. Do your part, we do our part, together we drive the economy into the future. That's what we want. That's what we want. We as the youth, we want economic development, we want social development, and more importantly, we want legal development. That is what we want.
The government response to the grievances raised by the youth, I think it is not sufficient, because the ones that have been solved right now, they have not been solved sufficiently, because we can also see that some youths are not satisfied with the actions of the government. However, some things that were raised are long-term. Something like unemployment, something like corruption. So we also need to give them time to see if they address this in the long term or not.
communities actually are very important to help us navigate through our careers. Because of like the event you held today, we have interacted. I've met several people who are doing several different degrees in different universities. So they're like, if I've met Shakira today, who is a paralegal, if I go somewhere else and meet Sam who is an engineer, I might even find a spot for Sam. You know, like we are interacting and sharing like different ideas from different places. Yeah, I think it's just fun.
Communities like KECTIL are important because they create a platform for the youth to be able to share their opinions on matters that affect them. It's important for such platforms to continue to be created, and such platforms to be able, and I would say stakeholders, and the government particularly, to continue to collaborate with such organizations and to listen keenly to what the youth are actually saying, because this is a platform where youth are voluntarily deciding on themselves to come out and speak about their concerns about different factors such as entrepreneurship, unemployment. So it's very much important that such platforms exist, and secondly that this does not end here. As I mentioned earlier, we just don't finish from talking, but we work further towards policies and documentation and research, because documentation is what is going to be used towards making any other policies or towards making any other judgments about situations.
Let us keep our dreams alive.
The event was so impactful because it gave us that avenue of opening up our minds, sharing ideas, and learning from each other. My takeaway home is that entrepreneurship is a key role for us to empower the growth of our economy, and also learning from other founders, other youths, and bringing our minds together, looking forward on how we can empower each other more and more.
Let's keep it together.
First of all, there's so many youths who are unemployed. Second of all, these new policies are directly going to affect us, because our parents are already old. Most of them have gone back to the rural areas, so we are the only ones remaining. Most of us are the ones remaining in the city to toil day and night. So if we are to sit back and watch these things happen, then we are going to be infringed of so many things that pertain to our growth as youth of this generation. And then we'll end up having a depressed generation. And the moment you have a depressed generation, the productivity is very low. So that means if the productivity is low, we will still remain to be a third world country.
Definitely, this was actually a very great opportunity for me to network, and it's in line with my adopted philosophy of lateral networks are more beneficial to the youth than vertical networks, in the sense that the youth don't have to be beneficiaries of development, but they can actually be drivers of it. And so lateral networking among the youth presents them with an opportunity to learn from each other and then to collaborate to effect actual, change or implement actual projects. And so that has been a great thing I've picked from the focus group discussions. And also, besides that, I've gotten to also introduce or be introduced to youth that are doing totally different professional pursuits from mine. I've been able to meet a physicist, and we've had a discussion on exactly how the research work he does speaks to the Kenyan environment and its challenges. And I've just learned from that networking opportunity that there is a lot we can do as a nation to leverage research to drive our development goals.
About the movements that have come across the nation when it comes to shaping the political state of the nation. First of all, it's a spotlight. It's a spotlight to Kenyans. It's a spotlight to Kenya as a whole. It's a spotlight that we know what we are fighting for. We are educated, we are civilized, and we know our rights. And in that way, the global eye right now is pointed towards Kenya, featuring in the New York Times, featuring all the way from Asia and Europe. Kenya has received a publicity recognition. And at this point, as a future stake, we are going to witness these movements shaping the legislature, shaping the people we actually put there, the voting processes, the voting participation. The youth form the majority of Kenya, and for them to actually realize the importance of politics, and not just the theatrics, politics as in the science, politics as in the technicalities, politics as in the grassroots. For us to actually understand all that, it brings to our mindset, it brings to our forethought how we vote, how we participate in our civic duties, and that ultimately is going to change who we elect, and who we trust with our future as Kenya.
The most available thing that I've learned today is that if we have an idea and we share our idea with others, it will help us to learn from each other on how we make our ideas productive, how we make our ideas bring the outcome that we are aspiring to have.
Standing together, united, divided, we fall.
Absolutely. I think, as always, I think when you do events, more time is always their concern, because there's always so much ideologies that want to be shared, so much thought. For future references, and I think that's the plan with this event as well, is to always consolidate the feedback and to consolidate the findings and discussions that we have and sharing them out to the public. Because there's one thing where you host an event, and especially on such matters, on policy regulations about youth employment, and then you just keep the findings to yourself. A huge part about organizing an event and getting interactions and getting feedback and getting engagement from the youth is also dispersing the knowledge that you get from such engagement.
I will not deviate very much in terms of the themes, because I think we have a very strong theme in terms of pursuing how to implement effective policies. What I'll suggest is that we now advance the conversation to practical steps that can be taken. For instance, a couple of days ago, the Parliament of Kenya issued an invitation for memorandum on the Revenue Division Amendment Bill. And we need as youth to engage at a level whereby we figure out how we can develop such memoranda and present, how we can interrogate individual policies or bills, have intelligent discussions around them, identify the pros and cons, and then make our own interpretation and conclusions, and then meaningfully inform the policy discussions. So for me, the goal moving forward will be to advance the conversation to practical interventions that we can implement ourselves.
I don't think that young people have enough support. First of all, I will speak on the male part especially, because in a society we live in, our culture dictates that men are not supposed to be like emotionally weak in front of people. So if we have men as the backbone of this economy, if we are living in a patriarchal country where the men are always taking the lead, then we don't have a country, because we are the ones that we are looking forward to help us as females to develop, but they're battling so many things. So when it comes to health, I think the health is not adequate enough.
The biggest challenge of facing youth unemployment in Kenya, the biggest challenge we are having at the moment is that we have the ability to like work, but now we cannot work because the work is like telling us, the people who are hiring us, they want us to have experience, a 3 years work experience, of which we don't have. We are only like coming from school, and we want them to teach us, for us to have those experiences, like the 5-year experience which they want, like a requirement. Like you want to employ me, you're telling me I should have a 5 years experience. I don't have it. I want you to teach me. Like they should like venture in upgrading people who are coming from school rather than wanting a ready-made material.
Regarding the issues that cause unemployment, especially among the youth in the country, what I will bring to what I think that we can collectively tackle is individualism. There is a lot of individualism whereby we think we can do it by ourselves, or there's little examples to copy from when it comes to collaboration, when it comes to public-private collaborations, when it comes to government and entrepreneurs collaboration. And as the youth in this nation, I think we can tackle we can tackle the aspect of partnership, we can tackle the aspect of collaboration when it comes to ideas and sharing ideas and actually implementing those ideas. Because I might be skillful in managing, but somebody else is skillful in recruiting, and somebody else is skillful in finances. If we are able to bring together those aspects and as collectively and think as a Kenyan economy, as a collective mind, as a collective pool, we are able to bring forth ideas, we are able to stand in confidence and actually bring ourselves out of poverty and unemployment altogether.
It was such a pleasure, first of all, working with all the colleagues. I very much appreciate their dedication. I very much appreciate their passion. You could tell the enthusiasm that amidst everything that is happening in the country right now, there is still so much hope, so much enthusiasm, and the youth keep on taking space, because even in terms of the debaters, it was all voluntary. And I'm very much grateful to all participants and organizers for today's event. And ideally, from the conversations we're having with everyone, everybody's saying we need to have more platforms. Discussions are even going further, and they're saying, you know what, we can even create our own think tank, so that whenever the government has opinions about certain issues, they can readily refer to us because we've discussed about these things. They want the debates to not only be about, of course, competition, but they want it to be a platform where they discuss matters affecting society, come up with policy documentations or recommendations for what they do. So for me, I'm very grateful. I'm leaving very much motivated, encouraged by the continuous dedication and thrill that the Kenyan youth continue to give.
Hope to see you all again. By all, I mean every friend of whoever was here today. I would like us to persist in having these discussions. I would like us to put meaning behind these discussions in the sense that we should be objective. Let's look to achieve something from the policy recommendations, because we've done that in our focus group discussions. In the debate, the youth have pointed out areas that can actually help address the economic and employment challenges. And so let's persist the conversation to not just to move beyond matters of advocacy, but to actual recommendations and seeking to ensure that our recommendations are implemented.
The question of me participating in the protest, in numerous ways. There have been spaces on X to discuss these issues, which I have promptly done so. There have been advocacy conventions, which I have participated in those areas. And when push came to shove, we went to the streets for that. The main reason, first of all, because of what I do as a student, as a member of academia, what I'm looking forward to is not to finish and get my degree and stay at home. If you're looking at the investment prospects in Kenya, having those ridiculous, ludicrous tax imposed on us will ultimately reduce the investment in Kenya, and thereby reducing the per capita income in general. So what I stand for also is the broader picture. If you're going to set jobs for ourselves, and not just for ourselves, for the incoming employment needs by other generations, that is what I'm fighting for also.
We only have one role to play. We as the young people have a single role to play. Be patriots of our country. Be citizens of dignity, citizens with responsibility, citizens with virtue, citizens that have a will to make ourselves better. First, as I said before, we have to want to make ourselves better. If we don't make ourselves better, we can't make our neighbors better. We can't make our friends better. So it's a personal choice. I decide that I don't want a Kenya that is embezzled in corruption. I look for ways that I can fight corruption. I won't riot in the streets every day to fight corruption. I'll do papers, I'll write proposals, I'll go to the courts, I'll follow the procedures, I'll do anything possible to ensure that corruption is out of Kenya. It is a personal decision. For instance, a traffic cop asking me for 50 shillings by the road, I won't give him that 50 shillings. Why should I participate in a bribery? That is not what I want. That is the future I want. Why you get to say no when no is necessitated, why you get to say yes when yes is necessitated, and why you get to evaluate the options that you have to make us better.
the young people voices being heard, I think it is not being heard entirely, because you see, when we say this is what we want as the youth, because I'm also part of the youth, but you see, some are addressed to the way we expect, some are not addressed. You can see the latest case of the CSS being appointed. Whatever the youth expected was not done. So I think the voices are being heard, but probably we need as a youth to be included in the policy making, so that we become the part of the policy makers, so that the response is also inclined towards our needs.